Hey, Rick. It's good seeing you again. We were talking at the party like a week ago about that app I was creating while I was at the party.
Right.
And you got really
Yeah,
curious really fast as a
I
fellow
did.
software guy who's going through the AI journey like everybody. So I thought it'd be cool to have you on and just kind of record your reaction in live time about how
Happy to
I'm
be.
starting to develop apps. Yeah, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Todd.
Just to show you, this is basically my last month. This is my GitHub. Developed that one last night. I did this one while we were at the party. That was my college roommate who called me up while I was just about to take a nap and said, "Hey, I got this idea." And then I had a PRD for him and then hit Claude Code. And then I'll kind of walk you through another one. But while we were at the party, the Claude Code was churning away and actually did this one. And then all the rest of these are stuff I've written. Like I've been so productive this month and I hadn't written code really in a while.
Are
But
you
it's,
sharing your screen with me right now?
yeah. Let me share your screen. Okay. Yes. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Share my screen. Okay. So, yeah. So here's my GitHub repo. All these are things I've developed the last couple weeks. That was 3 weeks ago. Just really, really productive summer. All this stuff to here has been with Claude Code. And so here's Concert Connect. That's the one that my roommate was talking about. You know, pretty well documented and pretty good tech stack. It runs and it's Docker and runs on AWS and they have deploy scripts and it's kind of crazy. So
That's fantastic.
yeah. So
So what did you have to feed into Claude to make that work?
yeah. So as it turns out, my roommate said, "Hey, that was really cool. Can you do another one?" So I'll
You
walk you
might
through that.
regret this.
Yeah. Oh, well, what the heck? Yeah, you only live once. Okay, so I said, all right. So, and then what my new favorite thing to do is I have that Claude hardware recording device that I showed you, but just anything you got that I can, as a traditional product manager would, I would go have interviews with subject matter experts and then try to figure out what the product should be. So I think that's the software development lifecycle is a good proxy or it's a good model for how to do this stuff still. We've all figured it out. It's just now automated at certain steps. So I like to have that hour discussion with somebody and then take the transcription and plug it into Claude Desktop, which is different from Claude Code, and then just kind of do some research. So in lieu of that, I'm going to just take this email and just cut and paste it. And then I kind of glanced at it, but I didn't want to get too far ahead of you with this. And then this is an idea for some kind of racquetball scoring, racquetball coaching application. So I've actually got a new product design project, and I'm going to paste the email into my standing instructions are pretty simple. And this is the prompt. As a consulting CTO, I want to develop a system, implement a new business idea for the client. I'll give you a transcript or summary from a product design meeting, which I just did. Ask me clarifying things. I think that's a big deal. You don't want it to just go make up stuff. You want it, if it's not clear, to stop and ask. And I found that was a really good thing to add in there. Look at my email to see if there's anything. And actually, it'll probably find something in the email. Design should use best practices for the product category, use research tools. So I'm telling it because Claude now has MCP tool usage, and I could show you what that looks like. It has the
Okay.
ability to go use tools now, like think of those as SaaS services.
Right.
It's a little
Okay.
different than that, but that's a good way to think about it with API. Best APIs have kind of turned into MCPs, but it's a little different. But use those tools to go find the best practices, go update your knowledge, do research for a business case, and then to finance a phased approach. Because I think a lot of people now want to get started for cheap, what's minimum viable in the startup world.
Right.
And then go do a product design document, PRD or PDD, product requirements document, that I could pass to Claude Code for implementation. And then I'm going to take whatever you give me and give it to Claude Code. And then, I collect everything in my projects folder, and off you go.
So you've sort of created like a framework for your framework. So
Yeah.
when you do a new product, you're saying, okay, these are the steps I want to take. So how did you formulate those?
So I just kind of played around with the prompt, and then I found that as an engineering leader, the way I would talk to people and give directions to an engineering team works really well with Claude in a coding, design, and implementation kind of flow, right? So I would have a conversation with a product person and then try to figure out, okay, what are we trying to build here? Get a pretty business oriented view of it, and then as an entrepreneur, CEO, I would want to know, hey, is there business for this? And then some of that is going to inform decisions you make as an architect, down the road. So that's kind of my founder brain kicking in at that point. But
That makes sense.
and then as an architect, I'm want to say, hey, kick this off, and then let's help me research this. Let's just go ahead and kick it off here. I'm gonna say, please, implement this. Let's design it first. Research this product description and help me design a high level architecture presentation.
One thing I like about what you're doing with that sort of like that higher level structure is as AI developers, you're probably going to be putting out a lot of code and you want to make sure that it's going to be maintainable. So if you're starting from a similar process, then it's going to make it much easier for you
Mm-hmm.
and other people who work with any code that you develop to maintain. So it makes a lot of sense. I like it.
Yeah. And then there's probably going to be a back end here. There's probably going to be a front end. You kind of happen to be on an AWS kick. I use a lot of Node on the back end, a lot of React on the front end. I have no idea what it's going to pick. I've done some vision stuff lately, and I found that Claude kind of remembers my preferences. So as I use this thing more and more, it's scary. It kind of zones in on like what I tend to like.
Knows
Like
you.
it has not ever, suggested Azure in a while. So, so
It's
here's
interesting.
MCP since we're sitting here. So I've plumbed up like too many tools, right? But Google Suite, email, calendar, Drive, some other stuff.
What does MCP stand for?
Model Context Protocol, and so it's
Okay.
a good way to think about it as a dev is it's an extension of what REST APIs are, plus Swagger Doc kind of built in, and then a little dash of natural language wrapper, and then so you can specify, much like Swagger tells you what API endpoints are there and what the what the auth has to be, and then what the parameters need to be and what the objects might be. You can extend that and say, here's the prompts, or here's the types of problems I can solve for you. Here's some example prompts that you might want to give me, when this comes up. And then so Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, they all use MCP, or they can. And then so it's a way for everybody. It's a standardization shim to wrap SaaS services for the natural language world is a good way to think about it. And context is important. So you see me like dragging all these like standing instructions and like little text files or PDFs or whatever, um, that's context that loads, and then it's always there. And then as you create things, documents, designs, code, it has all that available to go refer back to it. And then so if there's like some weird API that you're trying to talk to, I like to give it a link to the current API documentation as an example. And then actually right here, I have an MCP server. Let me turn this on for AWS documentation. So you can read, search, or recommend. Now, AWS puts that out. So as I'm going through this thing, if I want to bias it toward AWS, which I kind of probably do, yeah, I've got that available so that, we can go get the latest and greatest thing. And then there's built-in things. There's extended thinking, research. I'll probably turn that on. And then you can pick from Opus, Sonnet, or Haiku, which is tiny. I've never really used that, but Opus is like the big thinker. So if we're just going to be sitting here for an hour, kind of grinding through stuff and deep think, like I think this is a good choice here. So let's just see what it does. And then, I don't ever want to like one shot these things, but it does pretty good on the first cut. And then I think we're going to want to interact with it. So while we're sitting here, let me shift over to this. I don't know if you had a chance to read this. But so I guess the idea is, computer vision, machine learning. So that's going to get expensive, but so I expect like, Bedrock to come up. It's be interesting to see what vision models it's going to support, or if it'll do research for that. Upload a video, swing analysis. Be interesting to see if it goes out and does a market survey to try to figure out, if anything already exists that we can copy.
A market survey?
Yeah. So like how
does that work?
Well, like it'll go just cruise the web. Like, I mean, if you were going to go do this, you go, man, I wonder what's, I don't want to, this is like pretty complicated to start from scratch. I wonder if there's anything else out there I could kind of model or copy or emulate.
Right, understood. Okay.
Yeah, like this, but for racquetball, like tennis, but for racquetball, or pickleball or something. And then, like, do we really have to model the human body in computer vision? Kind of complicated. Or can we just like draw lines on the iPad between like angle of your arm, or I don't know what, and then, video processing. It'll be interesting to see if it starts asking us about real time video processing versus just upload and post process. This is pretty sophisticated, so I don't know. We'll see.
A lot of requirements there. He's thought about this quite a lot, hasn't he? He's thought it through.
Yeah. Well, he's an actuary, so he's very detail oriented. But he's also very good at racquetball. So I don't know.
So the idea is to create an app that end users can then take videos themselves, playing racquetball or whatever, and feed into this system. And the system will make recommendations on things to do to improve, tell them what they're doing well.
Yeah. And then, he's already specified a few libraries. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of this. This is a really almost too complicated. Right. And then, but I keep feeding these things to Claude just to see, what it would do. Oops. Did it stop on me?
This is basically just going to show you what the architecture should look like. It's not designing what the interface is going to look like or anything like that. It's just going to give you an overview of overall architecture of the underlying software.
Yeah. Okay. And we had an internal server error, which is about right for Claude. Oh man. Well,
does that happen a lot? I've been using Claude a little bit over the last week since we talked, and haven't had those kind of issues.
Yeah, it just depends. And then, my network might be lagging a little bit here. Let me just start this over here.
So you have the full subscription that allows you to basically just use all of Claude as much as you want every day
Mhm.
throughout the month. Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, within reason. So I've got the $100, I think they call it Pro
Okay.
subscription, and then there's that's the 5X or whatever, and that was a price point at which you could get Claude Code bundled with this. So I like this because you can hook up your little tools, MCP, and then you can one of the things I can do that I recommend is this file system right here. So if you go into Claude and you see manage connectors, there's browse connectors, and then you can go to desktop extensions and just turn on file system. And that's kind of like the first thing you should probably do. And then it can do anything you want on the file system. And then I think I can I can configure it for different directories. Like here's the directories that I want it to be able to look at.
I haven't gotten that deep into it yet. I've really just been using, Claude Code inside of VS Code inside of Visual Studio.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to do some research, and because there are probably a lot of other resources, whether they're on the web or on my laptop, that it could be using to it could be leveraging to help me do my work.
Yeah. So, great project. I hope you develop a comprehensive design system, blah, blah, blah. Here's some questions: target market and scale. I think you said training facilities and coaches. So I'm just going to answer these things. This app's from coaches who are live on the court with students. We anticipate a subscription based fee structure. We want to launch quickly with an MVP. So please suggest reasonable phased approach. I think that's solid questions. And then it'll launch into everything.
It'd be interesting to see what AI does, because in the product development lifecycle, you always have a product manager and a lot of developers. It seems to me, just like going through this, that you're going to have. I don't think product managers need to worry about their jobs. There might be requirements for more project managers just to be able to feed this stuff. Right? It's getting me thinking as we're going through the process. It's really interesting.
I'm going to turn off Gmail, and I'm not sure what's holding it up. This is part of the frustration with all this stuff. It can be a little flaky sometimes.
It probably can overanalyze, like humans.
Yeah.
Overthink.
No, but
I'm
going
guilty.
back to your point though, I think there was a joke on Reddit the other day. It was like somebody said, "Oh, I have 6 windows. I'm a 6X coder now." And it's like, "No, you're a manager now. You're not a coder."
That's interesting. Interesting.
But I think that's exactly kind of where you were going with it. It's the soft skills of planning, execution, trying to figure out exactly what the architecture looks like, schedules. All those are management skills, and then so individual contributor skills are gonna become both rare and valuable because not that many people you're not gonna need that many people. It's gonna be like a kernel developer who does C. There's not that many of those people around, but boy, they sure are valuable. And and then your garden variety HTML developer, like that's going to go away pretty much. And then it's all going to be about one person's got to be able to manage a bunch of this stuff and can manage a bunch of this stuff. So those of us who are kind of on the later end of the career spectrum with all the experience, we know what it should look like on the back end, and we kind of know kind of when it's going to go off the rails. And I think that's another part of this is, Claude can, and others, can do very well. But then it can also just start making stuff up in a gap. And then
Right.
you're like, whoa, stop.
You still need a human being running the process.
Yeah. Behind it. So, coders aren't going to go away. Our lives are just going to change a little bit. And then, for me, I kind of stopped coding for a while because I didn't enjoy it with all the grindy, like, oh, you got to update your NPM packages and there's a mismatch in the libraries and, all that stuff that it's like, man, I love creating, but, I hate the constant debugging when I'm in go mode. You just want to get stuff done.
Understood.
So,
and it's probably a pace that a lot of people aren't used to. I mean, I'm a bit of a geek, so I like the grind. I like, kind of getting elbow deep in code, but for someone like me who likes to do that, I see this as just an additional productivity tool. I can still code and still do that work, but now I've got a partner. It's almost like a, who I can code along with, or we can code with. So it really is, it's flexible. I mean, in terms of how you want to work.
Let me find this. Here's my, which app is this? Okay. Well, so this is one I was working on last night. So I kind of was doing Visual Studio for a while, and that now I'm just I just go right to the terminal. So
you're not even watching the code as it's building code. You're just
Well, I just grab a
you're
shell.
Still having a conversation, but you're not standing over his shoulders.
Yeah, and then so I basically type Claude in the project folder, right? So I'm in projects, and then this new thing's called Agent Market. So I'm developing a delivery mechanism for custom built agents to run on AWS. And then so it goes and it kind of explores, the setup that you have. In this case, it's pretty much empty except for a couple of documentation things. And you let it kind of do its thing. And then it says, okay, I've successfully analyzed the code base, there's nothing there. And then initialized. And then actually there were a couple of documents that are going to drop out of Claude desktop that we're working on. And then it said, here's, I know what we're building, and here it is. And then, so it's actually fairly sophisticated, right? Bedrock, prototyping Claude desktop, convert to Lambda functions, Lambda, Dynamo, Bedrock, Python for agents, TypeScript for infrastructure, React for the front end. Oops. Oh, no.
One of my favorite frameworks these days is Next. Does it ever come up and recommend to use Next?
Yeah.
For like a React full stack application?
Yeah, it does. Depending on what you ask it to do, Next is a popular choice. Let's see. And then,
and do you have a particular kind of preference you have for running everything on Node? So it knows that, or is it actually, it's coming back and saying, well, this will make sense to do on Node as opposed to like Java on Spring or something like that?
You can tell it what you like. And then, I've been, the language I use, and I say best practices, tends to produce Node, React, type web apps, and then sometimes Python. And I think Claude has a bias because there's some internal runtimes in certain places for both those, Python and Node. So, but I know it works on like Go and Rust and Java and all kinds of stuff. So I think there is an inherent advantage for portability with Node and Python in particular. As a
I'd
Mac
agree.
user, yeah, I got all that stuff kind of laying around, and then sometimes we forget about the Windows world. They don't necessarily have all that at their disposal.
Right.
So I don't know what, but they can get it through WSL, and that's why I like the Claude desktop first, because it's all kind of self-contained. And then a lot of times Claude will downshift and go, oh, let me write you a little script to do this. And it'll be Python almost every time.
Oh, that makes sense.
This is what I typed just to get it going. You have permission to execute commands. You need to implement this project within this folder, so don't get too excited. And at the end, we'll need to check this project into GitHub, just so you know. Okay. And then it made a to-do list, which is pretty reasonable. And then it just started checking it off. And I think this is a file that it saves off. And then it just kind of just goes to town.
It's working.
Yeah. And then
Can you have this saved somewhere, sort of as a transcript? Does Claude allow you to do that?
good question. I'm not sure. It's just kind of in my shell. Like I could do like copy all, select all, and then copy paste. But
Right.
I think
I've noticed in some situations that it'll actually create a markdown for you. And I think I saw that it did that for you. So you do have some documentation on what it's doing and what it recommends.
Yeah. So
There you go.
yeah. So there'll be some docs, API some documentation, and then it'll leave a bunch of markdown for you. And then that's why I like to start with the design, and then create a couple of different markdowns that are pretty meaty, and then drop them into the repo first, and then let Claude go, okay, I can load all that context in first. And then I like to something I figured out was it's probably not good to go one shot at the stuff. It's good to say, hey, let's focus on build the UI first. Let's build the back end next.
Yeah, I ran into that. I ran into that when I started using Claude with setting up for testing. And I said, let's set up for end-to-end testing, integration testing, unit testing. And then before I knew, we had 4 additional packages, all this setup, and it became unwieldy really, really fast. And we just backed up and started with one piece, just unit tests. When that's done, we'll move on. And I think that makes a lot of sense, because it can be you do want to know what it's doing, right? You do want to be able to understand. And if you do too much at once, it definitely can get out of hand. I can see how that would happen.
What so you said you used it for test generation. That's always been historic, laggard, in any like human software organization. And nobody likes to write tests, generally, or you do it once and then you kind of forget and it kind of erodes forever. So do you do that? Did you say, hey, generate a bunch of tests for me? Or are you looking for code coverage, or what's the kind of strategy you were thinking?
Yeah, when I started, I always like to have, I want to have unit tests so that I can test all of the different parts of the application and files isolated. And then I also want integration tests, how they work when you've got multiple components or files that are all integrated. And then you want to have end-to-end testing. So just from having that kind of experience, I know the kind of testing that I want. And obviously I want to have, good coverage in all of those different aspects. I usually like to have 85 to 90% at least. So, that's sort of what I started with, and I fed all that into Claude, and it came up with just this huge plan. And I said, okay, well, let's just go and do that. And, we had Playwright installed and Cypress and Jest and React testing library and just all these tools and everything happening at once. It got big, it became unwieldy, and I could see that there was just a lot of duplication of effort happening in a lot of different places. So asked it to go back to the place where, I'm most comfortable, starting out, which is with just Jest and doing unit tests and integration tests and functional tests, that sort of thing. Typically, I usually like to have some tests written early in a project, and I do like to use sort of like, a test-driven types
Mm-hmm.
of process,
Mm-hmm.
because it really does prevent you from making a lot of errors down the line. In this particular project, I'm a little bit behind. I've been trying to push it out quickly. And it's something I want to share. So I just want to make sure that the tests are there, because any kind of changes I make on any new pieces going down the road, I want that to be there. And I also, if I'm going to start sharing this and showing, code to other people, they're going to want to see that there's, a full suite of tests written for it.
Yeah, it's a quality
So,
smell, right? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you have to test your stuff, and as engineers, we kind of, I think we'd rather just write and create stuff and let someone else, like a QA person, do it. But
Well,
I've gotten used to doing some of that myself, and I do like doing some of that myself, just so I know that as I go on, I'm not breaking stuff that I worked on previously.
yeah. Well, and then we all know that's the right thing to do. And then, business gets in the way and like, let's go faster. We got to launch,
Right.
and then it kind of, it's the cobbler's shoes, right? You never quite get back around to it if you don't, spend the time. But we all like, this is why AI is important, right? So it's all these marginal things that we've been pushing off that maybe you do, maybe you don't do, but everybody knows it's the right thing to do. And now it's like, it's a no brainer. You're just going to want to do it, hit a button, and then kind of maintain it. You want to crack this thing open and see what we got?
My gosh, I'm scared. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Well,
see.
I mean, who knows? And then, so this
Yeah.
was kind of cool. It said, analysis system design report outlines a small opportunity by year 3. Technical architecture using media pipe pose. Never heard of that. Oh, it's a racquetball specific biomechanical analysis thing. Pricing strategy 99 to 300. I mean, that sounds like everything.
Right.
Okay. All right. And then, okay. I kind of like rapidly gloss over these CAGR and ARR. Oh, with coach's eye discontinuation, creating a market vacuum. And then this is kind of cool. These are annotated, so you can go read this.
Right. Nice.
Coherent market insights. Okay. So there's a gap in the market. First AI powered analysis platform. Okay. 3 to 4 month MVP development timeline. And these are, my experience has been, these are pretty fair, right? And then if you just like kill it, you can get something going a lot faster than this. But this
Right.
is like a rational, normal. Oh no.
Does this assume that it's AP? Does it assume that it's using AI for the development with that 3 to 4 month projection, or is it just giving you a plan and saying, if you used a couple of developers, this is how long it's going to take?
I think these are traditional development cycles, because I've looked at them and went, yeah, that's okay. That's about right. And I do think AI can improve on that. So there's some cushion there or margin. It's been pretty good. I think that's another one of those things where you want a experienced human who's done it a few times to weigh in and go, yeah, that's probably a little short, or yeah, we could definitely do it in like 2 weeks, but with the following caveats. Yeah, so media pipe pose, okay, on mobile devices with specialized arm or wrist tracking crucial for. That's kind of fun. I wonder if they're talking about like I don't know what
Those
that
motion
is.
capture things, those like motion capture suits or whatever you see. So I
Well,
wonder
like,
how much those are going to cost, right? So
well, Apple Watch. I was actually talking about this with my friend, and I said, hey, Apple Watch, they do that for golf. Like when you swing, there's some trackers available. So I don't know if
it's
something like that.
interesting.
Yeah. And then so here's the architecture. So this is the fun part, right? Video input. Okay. AWS Kinesis. That's okay. Lambda, SageMaker endpoints for the media pipe. Inference. Okay. So that's like okay, SageMaker. Dynamo for the metadata. InfluxDB. I'm not sure about that. Have you ever heard of that one? So you probably want to drill down on that. CloudFront, and then the client application. Okay. Like
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, it looks interesting to me. It knows a lot more than I do at this point. I mean, I'm more of a
Yeah.
front end guy.
Yeah. 10 to 20 millimeter accuracy. That's like an inch, right? Oh, no. 10 millimeters would be like what, 3 inches? No. Yeah.
There's 2
4.
point something centimeters to an inch. 20 centimeters would be less than an inch. 20 millimeters would be a little bit less than an inch, I think.
Geez. Okay. That'll work. Video processing. GPU. Okay. All right. Streaming protocol on WebRTC. Okay. Mobile framework. Flutter. Okay. I don't know if I'd do Flutter. Like, I don't know about Flutter. Okay, so let's do this. Let's say
I don't see much Flutter. Flutter, I mean, you read about it, see about it. It feels a little like it's aging a little bit.
redesign or DESID. You remove Flutter. And what would you replace it with? Like
This one is going to be easy. I'm sorry?
React Native, maybe?
React Native, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And then PWA. I don't know how you feel about
I don't know what that
PWA.
is.
Oh,
What is PWA?
progressive web app. So there's the idea of like,
Right.
yeah, you build it in like React or something, and then it you put a little wrapper on it, and then voila, it's a
It's a desktop app, or it's a
mobile app, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
But then this is like, oh man, you're just asking to get the rug pulled out from under you.
It's already under onto version 2 of the application almost. It seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And then
So
it's starting to talk.
The hardware requirements are pretty. Well, you kind of want this to be a little bit something that's going to be easy to use, right, and implement.
Oh, there we go. Oh, Kotlin. Oh, Kotlin's native. So my experience. Well, let's see what it comes up with. But I like to do, experiment fast, get out in the market, and that's usually like a web app.
Right.
And PWA is kind of the cheapest way into the app store, and then eventually you're going to want like high performance probably. So they want you to do like a native application. Okay. So, a PWA. Okay. Oh, man, stop writing. I want to read what you're writing.
Ooh, a lot of editing.
Yeah. It's actually kind of scary to watch. All right, come on. This almost feels like it's it's going for Gmail. Oh, it declared success, and now it's writing it out to the file.
Remove Flutter and React Native. It kind of, I think I misunderstood your instruction. You wanted to replace Flutter with React Native.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So now it looks like it's got you writing to, Swift and also an application for Android.
All right. Last edit removed Flutter. Correct. But also took out React Native, which I prefer and want to be in the project. I mean, it's just like a statement you'd tell your software.
Right. Except it's going to do it without asking questions or getting mad about having to do extra work.
You didn't tell me this. You said.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine telling a product manager, here's what I want to do, and it takes a week to do this, and you come back and say, "Oh, you misunderstood what I said." Okay,
You said Java.
that's a week of time lost. Yeah.
No, I said JavaScript. Yeah. Yeah, and it's just, I think that's another part of it is the emotional work. Like all that grindy stuff, like you spent a couple, 3 days doing all this research. You're now emotionally invested in it, and then you're less likely to, want to make a change because it's a lot, right? It's a heavy lift to get here. All right, I'm going to take a peek.
Your friend is thinking about actually creating this application.
Yeah, he wanted to do it. He's a racquetball, like a high rank lifetime racquetball guy. And I think his dad had a racquetball club down in Florida somewhere. And then, it's just something he likes doing as a passion project for him. And I think that's another kind of interesting point is if he'd have called me a year ago, I'd have been like, man, you're crazy. There's no way. This is a lot of work and it's probably very expensive. It's just not worth it. But, if he, for what was the top line, $500,000 a year total?
It's a little bit more than that. Yeah, I think it was like 7, but the investment looks pretty high too.
Yeah. But if you could do some of this on the cheap.
Break-even point is.
Yeah. Well, but
that'd be a good question. I wonder what.
Yeah. AI brings that in.
I wonder what the break-even point is.
Yeah. And then so if you could create things that you wouldn't have otherwise and be able to do it cheaper and faster, all of a sudden this becomes doable. Well, at times, everybody in the world, I think a lot of people that get displaced out of their traditional software jobs are going to start doing stuff like this. And there's going to be a bunch of interesting tiny projects that get launched. We'll see.
Yeah, people who have these little dreams of many projects they've never been able to get off the ground. But then at the time of the resources, now it could become reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see a boom.
I think so. I think it's definitely a reorganization of the whole economy, at least in the tech sector. Let's see what we got. None of that really changed. Core stack, still this. Flux, CloudFront, that's all pretty much the same as it was. That's too crazy. React Native, here we go. That's where we got to last time, right? Okay, and then web strategy, PWA still. Okay, I'll go with that. But okay, racquetball specific. Holy crap!
Wasn't baseball based? Is that something that's typical of racquetball? Is baseball based swing mechanics?
Rather than tennis pendulum strokes.
Okay. So it'd be something interesting just run by your friend to see if this makes sense.
Yeah.
Probably does.
Yeah.
It probably does. To us, it doesn't. What do you mean baseball? We're talking about racquetball, but
I don't know, man. I'm a tennis player. I'm not entirely sure, but I know tennis is different from racquetball for sure in the way you swing. But this seems plausible, I guess, right? There's some kind of kinetic chain and then backly, it seems to be plotting something that it seems to know about from somewhere, which is a little scary. But let's go ask the expert, right? And then, okay, racket speed, swing compactness. Okay, that makes sense. Shot accuracy. Geez. Risk assessment. Oh, injury risk assessment. Are you going to hurt yourself with your shot? Wow. If this is close, that's pretty dang cool.
So if you're the tech guy / architect / developer / product manager, you would take this right And before you really started developing, you would take that back to your client, your friend, and say, does this make sense? Because you don't want to move forward with
Mhm.
a lot of this.
I just,
There's probably some back and forth, I imagine, that's going to happen, right?
yeah, I
If
just
you're really implementing this.
copy link, send it to my buddy. 90%. Okay. All right. And then I just want to go down here. All these are pretty sophisticated, I think. PWA, market opportunity. Okay, here's the business case. You know, you can make a little bit of money on the side. This is a side gig for somebody. ROI. That's your ROI. You asked that question, right?
Yeah. And what was the break even? 18 to 20. Did you say 18 to 20 months? 18 to 20 months.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
You know, not the best. You know, I've seen better, but it's not horrible. And if you really just love doing it, then okay. And then here's your phased implementation roadmap. So MVP foundation, team 4.5 full-time engineers, React Native development, cross-platform video. Okay. Success metrics. Pretty good. Phase 2, more AI, add an engineer. Phase 3, add another engineer and a half. Okay. I mean, that seems about right. Okay. Tournament. Oh, tournament management, coaching certification, equipment manufacturer collaborations. Wow. Kind of thought about some business type stuff. Okay. And then oh, well, check this out. Feature prioritization, reach, impact, confidence, and effort. Okay. So must-haves, video management, annotation tools, drawing text and timestamps. So I could like have an iPad, record, upload, have a gallery, and then maybe draw a line or two. Playback control, you know, front or backward freeze frame, user management, makes sense. Log in, native camera integration. Okay. And then nice to have basic sharing, like you show your mom or your buddy. Offline mode. Okay. Yeah. Comparison side by side with React Native. Okay. And that was one of the things you want to show, like, here's you, here's professional player. You're all crumpled over, bent over, you know, you need to stand up
Right.
straighter.
Yeah.
And then deferred. This is definitely out of scope. And then here's how you market it, right? Here's why it's different. And I think that's always a good thing, is knowing why you're building what you're building so you can make better decisions about,
Right.
you know, what order to build things.
So if you have 7 developers and whoever else, and your annual revenue is like $700,000, that doesn't sound like a sustainable business model. So you probably would want to have a few agents, I guess. So, you know, AI agents that are doing the work for you. Are there any metrics that say, you know, if you, Claude can do the work of, you know, a week's worth of architecture work in an hour or a 2 hour? You know, if you have a senior developer or an architect, what kind of work can it do, and what is the time frame it can do it in? Do you know what I'm asking? Like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's good. Good
how do I
question.
convert half of those developers into AI developers? And do I need one AI? Do I need, you know, just one Claude agent for every 3 developers? What's the metric?
I don't know, man. It's a brave new world. So you asked the question of what are these estimates? That I think those are old school estimates in time and money. And then you kind of look at it and go, man, I don't know. But I could get it done for that as an experienced
Right.
software developer manager.
Yeah. And if you could do it all yourself, and you don't need 7 developers, you need just one architect, and that's it. Then for sure it'll make sense. So can it actually start doing some of the development?
Yeah. So let me figure out what's going on here. Not sure why it's not writing out. What is going on here? Okay.
It's like sort of like a development plan.
Yeah, so it's basically saying, like, usually I would just say, hey, write this out to my drive, and then it would just do it. And then now it's going, well, I can't do it, so let me give you a couple scripts to run. And then you would just run this in your local folder. And then, it kind of it's like, here's what I would do. Let me just write you a script and you can do it yourself. Like I'm probably just going to blow by this. Like that's nice, but like I don't want to do that. I'm too lazy for that. So I think I'm going to debug this real quick. I probably like hit something weird. Browse connectors, desktop extensions, file system, right? And then configure. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to disable and re-enable. Did you reboot the server? And I'm going to go back to my chat here. And then, okay, it's ready for implementation. All right. So do you have access to my file system? I don't know what it's doing here. It's kind of crazy.
It's thinking.
Anyway, so if I go up here and look at the script here, this is all my artifacts. So I probably just save these two off into a folder. So what I'll do is I'll say copy, let's see, download that as text. And then I want to do here, and then I want to do, where's my projects? There it is. And then we're going to call it, what do you want to call this? Analysis.
Analyzer.
Analyzer. Is that right? Okay. And then I'm going to download it here. And then I'm going to do this one. And then I'm going to download that to the same place. And then that's usually all I got to do. And then I think it set up a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So that's a setup script.
Are you going to go ahead and run that?
Yeah. So it said, here's your bash command. And then if you prefer, okay, whatever. Okay. So let me go here. All right. So, I'm kind of lazy. So I'm just going to go Claude. I'm going to vote Claude and I'm going to say yes. And then, init. So I'm going to init the directory here. I'm just going to let
What does
Claude.
that do? What does that do when you init the directory?
So here's the checklist that's running. It says,
Okay.
figure out, read anything that's here, check for existing, build, test, lint, create a markdown for Claude. That's your kind of like README for Claude. And then README for humans. And then look for any Copilot cursor rules. Which there's never going to be any. I don't use those. And then so it's just kind of getting situated, reading everything, running through its typical hello world stuff. And then I'm just going to, rather than screwing around with all those bash scripts it told me to do, I'm just going to say, hey, figure it out. And then usually that's all you got to do. So I've definitely gotten to the point where I lean into it probably more than I should.
It
But
left you the instructions, so it left itself the instructions. Why not let it
yeah. Oh,
do
look at
that
that.
work?
Check that out. Project overview, swing analyzer. Yeah. Okay. Repo contains this front end, state management, back end, blah, 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 core features, install dependencies, development, ragaball. Oh, and it recognizes there's a setup script. How cool is that? And then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, business context, implementation notes. Oh, that's kind of fun. Okay. Do you want me to record that? Yes, please. And don't ask me again. And then we're kind of into it.
So if you would pull up a code editor in that directory, you'd find a structure. You'd find a project structure.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, a little bit. So here's VS Code. So if I do file, open folder, put these down for a second. Here, projects. So it doesn't have much, right? And then what I do is I open a terminal. I say Claude. And now I got two Claudes working on the same file system. It's okay.
It'll
And then
do
I'll
that.
say, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then so let's just yep, so this one's done. I'm gonna go back to this one, and then I'm gonna say uh create create the UI for the first phase of development. Okay, let's do this first.
Take a
Create
while.
a plan to develop the develop the first phase of implementation. Then start on start by creating the UI. So I like to, say, hey, make a plan, and then it'll make a big checklist. There it goes. And that's pretty rational usually.
Right.
And then it kind of leaves itself notes. So if I turn it off and go away and come back a week later, see how it's crossing off items.
Right.
And then it says, can I please run the script? So there it is. It's going to run that script for me. Isn't that cool? It just kind of figured it out.
It's very cool. It's scary cool is what it is.
Mm-hmm. So it's having trouble with racquetball swing analysis, the name of the folder. I'll recreate the project structure within the current directory in the beginning, implementing phase 1. Okay. All right. Fine. Whatever. So I think this is one of those things where I'm so lazy, I don't care. I'm just going to let it go. But it's probably about to make a mess. So if I was a little bit more structured, I'd probably stop here and rename. Like I named the directory incorrectly. We have cascading errors here, right? So I didn't stick with the Claude desktop. I let it get away with having an error, not being able to write out to the file system. I should have troubleshot that and let it just do its thing. Instead of doing that, I just kind of got lazy and copied and pasted it to a file. But I named it the wrong thing. And then there's a script that was already written, assuming certain file structure. So that's another one. Maybe it'll work. It'll probably work, but it's going to have to clean up some stuff. Maybe I don't care at some point, So let my digital surf do its thing.
Right.
Yeah. So this is it. So now we can go watch TV or call mom.
So what's going on in that source directory? Imagine it's just.
Oh, you'll see.
You go look under. You go in the source directory. There's just.
Yep.
Okay. It's working.
Yeah.
It's working hard.
Source screens auth. So if we look under screens, auth. So it's working on that.
Amazing.
So let's see what it's doing here. Oh, that's the wrong one.
Imagine a lot of that stuff maybe it's just not installed yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Password. Oh, you're looking at the red lines?
Yeah.
So what's it looking at? Source store.
It's using Redux. Can you click on auth slice? I'm curious what it put into there. Put into that file. Okay. Makes perfect sense.
You're probably going to want to hack on this a little bit, and then old me would just like go in and start typing, and new me is like, I don't need to see this. I'm just going to.
Looks okay to me.
I'm going
to me.
I'm going to revert back to what I do every day anyway. As a CTO, it's like, I really should not be coding, but I should be able to tell people in natural language what I want changed and why. And then I think that's a really good way to kind of think about these new tools. Now, you still got to know what you're doing. It could still be a bonehead, just like any human.
Right.
But a lot of times it does pretty rational things if you give it pretty clear instructions. So we all have to become better managers.
That's sort of what you are, right? When you're using AI.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Human skills.
So how long does this have? I mean, it's a pretty big UI or decent sized UI. I imagine this could take a while.
Um,
Now, did it give you an estimate?
it just kind of just goes, you know,
Okay.
and as long as it needs to go. And then this is the part where it knows what it's doing. It's got a plan. You know, it's a great time to go for a walk, get some coffee, call your buddy, just figure it out.
The project's underway.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this is kind of where I was at the party. I hit go, right? And then I went to the dinner party and, met you there. And, we were kind of talking about it. But this is kind of what it was doing. And then, a couple hours later, I came home and it was kind of done, except for like checking it into GitHub. And that it needed the human help to do that. Like I had to go create the repo on GitHub as a human, right? It won't do that automatically, which I think is a good safeguard. But then
Probably, yeah.
yeah, you just give the whatever.git and then it'll take it from there. So here's players.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
So are we going to come back at some point and look at this? And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a reasonable shot it'll finish in the next 5-10 minutes. Oh, now let me create the main app and complete the basic project setup.
okay, so we should be able to run this?
Yeah. npm run dev. That's what I'm expecting.
Are you going to need emulators for Swift or for I don't know what the name of the software framework is for.
Yeah, Kotlin or something. I think it's just going
Is
to
that what
be
that is? Okay.
regular JavaScript app, that we can open up our Chrome tab and localhost 3000, and we ought to, see at least stub data in there. Which it's kind of cool. The first time it did that, I had to write a back end and a front end. And then the back end said, well, we don't have a database yet, but let me stub one out so you can exercise the APIs. And then it had tests in there and everything. I mean,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a game changer. And then, is it complete? No. There's going to be stuff you got to kind of scrub down. But it's a lot easier to kind of say it in natural language. And then just kind of not pay attention for a few minutes and go do something else. It's just, when you're coding, it's just so much concentrated brain power and context you have to load for such a long period of time. It's just exhausting. You can't do anything else the rest of the day.
Right.
when you're doing something big like this. All right. So it looks like it's just about done.
So this one's complete the basic setup. Now, can you imagine how do you think this would come out if it was somebody who didn't have any software experience started going through this process?
Yeah.
Do you think it could end up getting messy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. In a hurry for sure. And I think it goes, remember what I was saying, I should have probably stopped and corrected the error. I learned that one the hard way where I just let it go and just kind of went, yes, 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 yes. Which is not a good idea. You got to kind of read what it tells you because it's telling you something because it's not sure. And then if there's an error, you got to pay attention to it and then get it back on track. And I think knowing what is kind of important and what it's like, well, I know you're just trying to get something going. So let me just hack something in there. Like it's very quick to do that if you're not careful.
Right. So the amount of work that it's doing right now or is done right now, this would take, let's say, a senior engineer, how long to do? A week, maybe more?
Maybe. Yeah.
A couple of weeks worth of work probably right here?
Maybe. You'd have to kind of design it a little bit, unless you knew exactly what you wanted.
Right. Could you have said before you got to this point, hey, give me some Figma screens? Give me a Figma project so I can look at what you were thinking about?
Okay. So Figma, there's an MCP for Figma. Let me go over here and let me show you this. So I have Figma desktop on my computer. And then I did this website, and then so I basically there's a MCP that allows you to have your Figma open with a design, click on something and refer to it in natural language, like this button that I'm clicking on in Figma, and then change the code. And then so we're working on the main landing page, and the buttons in the selected Figma div, like I had selected one div. I see the button component is using, okay, let me fix the button. And then we kind of go through.
So if you wanted to see this before it actually started implementing it, you could with something like with Figma.
Yeah. So that's what I did. Somebody gave me the Figma, and I said, oh, yeah, it's going to be easy.
They gave you the Figma. Okay.
Yeah. So here.
You could have it create one. I mean, like in the project we're working on right now, even before it started working, you could have said, give me a design on what this is going to be.
Right. So here's the Figma, right? And then so you literally, you go in here and you say, manage, let's see. Preferences. Yeah. Preferences. Enable local MCP server.
Very cool.
And then images, please download them and don't refer to them. And then at that point, you have an MCP server running, and I can click on, like, I could say, like, hey, this button here, I don't know if you can see that. That button there is the wrong color yellow. Can you please just fix it?
Right.
And then, so I have the way this looks like. That. Yeah. So I have, that's, so I go, connectors, desktop extension, and then there's Figma right here.
Very cool.
And that's it.
It's easy.
Yeah. And
Love
then
it.
Yeah. And then you can just talk to it, like, talk to it. And I think this is where I started right here. I didn't even go to Claude Code. I just did it all in the desktop. I basically said, can you see the file system? Yes. Implement. I just clicked on something and said, implement the selected frame is the main landing page for the web app and the laptop layout.
Interesting.
Blah, blah, blah. Done and done. And then wrote it out to the file system. Pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So
let's go see let's see what's happening with our coder.
Oh my God. Okay. Phase 1 complete. We'll see. I've successfully created comprehensive phase 1 MVP for this platform. Here's what's been delivered. Authentication system, JWT, auto login, coach dashboard, player management, video library, video player, React, Redux, yep, async, query, project status, 15 screens, oh man, nav, and service error, okay, TypeScript. And then to get started, run npm install and then npm run iOS or Android. All right, so let's try it. npm install and then run iOS. I forgot where I put my stuff here. That's it. Back to the shell. Okay, npm install. This might take a minute.
Yeah. And then npm run iOS. So it's created a script for you that'll show you
so we got a little work to do to bring it up to speed.
Yeah, typical warning stuff. How many dependencies were there? Curious how big that package JSON file was.
That
That's
many?
not too bad. It's too bad.
Mm-mm.
There you go.
Okay. npm run iOS. No chance this works. Okay.
You just cut and paste that into Claude.
Actually, so what I like to do is I'll go, okay. I'll say create, I'll say run npm. This is to Claude, right? Run.
Run npm iOS. There you go. So even it makes mistakes.
Yeah, but it fixes them. So
Right.
this is where you kind of have to really watch and kind of understand. If you don't know what you're doing, you can get a hole pretty fast. Okay, yeah. Anyway.
It's got a little bit of work left to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Not as glorious as we were hoping for.
Okay. So Expo is more along the lines of one of those PWS. So that's probably what you're going to end up running inside of is Expo as opposed to like some kind of simulator, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know, frankly, about Expo enough. So
It basically just creates a native app. So it'll create a native app that'll run on your computer, as opposed to inside of an iOS or inside of an iOS simulator.
yeah, so I'm suffering from the naming. I should have fixed it a while back. Here it is again. I should have stopped and fixed my error. Oh well.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming you're going to go back and fix all that. I mean, if this is something that your friend actually wants to move forward with after looking at the plan, you'll go back and fix it. It's pretty incredible how much you can get through in just an hour or so.
Yeah, here it is again. Dang it. Yeah, here's an hour, and then maybe it's not perfect, but that's a pretty good start.
You got a full product plan, full development plan. You've done phase 1 of software development. That's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think? Is this something you would? I'm gonna stop sharing here. Is this something you would mess with, or do you think this is a game changer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely is the game changer. I think with any other, with any, especially in application development, but anything like anything else these days, people are going to be successful. Are going to be the people who know how to work with AI and know correct prompting. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you've been demonstrating is just through your experience with working with it, and you're just learning how to prompt, basically, right? I mean, we're all just going to become prompt professionals, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
Well,
any other way to put it, but that's going to be the indicator of success, right?
we're going to have to learn, we're going to have to go deeper and shallower at the same time, right? So we're not going to be hands on keyboard as much as we were. We're going to have to know a lot more about a lot of things. Like I'm going to have to go figure out Expo now and, but I can research
Right.
that faster. So it's like, oh my God, I got we got to absorb all this stuff so
You're going to
fast.
be able to do it quickly though, right? And you're just one guy. Look how much you've already accomplished in a little bit over an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just from a purely product management standpoint, there's weeks of work in there already. Research and putting together the plan and doing all of your, your forecasts, your projections of time and costs and things like that. All that's done. And now you're just working on development. It's crazy. It's scary at the same time. It's crazy. It's exciting, and it's also scary.
Yeah. Well, and then what happens if, like, remember the time estimates? You're asking me, like, are
Right.
these like pre-AI or after AI? What do you think now? You think it's,
I think it's just they're non-AI estimates. You said do a plan, and it probably has some sort of metrics that it uses. It said this amount of work is going to take an average developer this amount of time.
and then we were
So
looking at the financial, like going, it's not a lot of money. But what if you cut that in 1/10?
hey, instead of 7 developers, you just need one good developer who can be a supervisor, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper.
And it becomes a really nice job for somebody rather than, a really kind of marginal business for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. That's
I like it.
on the
I've
margin.
got
It's
it. As we're going through this, I'm already thinking about stuff that I want to do with my, my little side project that I'm working on. So I'm already thinking about things that I want to do, things that I could do probably pretty quickly.
very cool. Well, I'll have to
Yeah.
keep up with you and,
Yeah,
see how
I'd
that
like
works out.
that too. All right.
All right, Rick. Thanks for coming on and, bye for now.
Thanks, Todd.